An elderly millionaire woman opens her mansion to a young writer seeking inspiration, but she has no idea what the young woman's true intentions are or the lengths she'll go to achieve them. The Greystone mansion loomed like a silent titan over the small New England town, its towering spires and expansive gardens shrouded in the misty twilight. Tonight, the mansion buzzed with an unusual energy, its normally quiet halls echoing with the sound of laughter, music, and clinking glasses. It was the annual charity gala, an event that Eleanor Greystone, the last of the Greystone lineage, hosted with a mix of reluctance and duty. As guests adorned in elegant gowns and sharp tuxedos wandered through the grand ballroom, they marveled at the opulent decor. Crystal chandeliers casting soft light on the ancient portraits and the dark oak paneling. Among the attendees was Clara Bellamy, a young writer with a keen interest in historical buildings, especially those rumored to hold secrets. Her eyes absorbed every detail, from the faded tapestries to the whispering corners where shadows seemed to flicker mysteriously. Eleanor, a dignified woman in her late 70s, watched from the top of the grand staircase, her expression unreadable. Despite her age, her presence commanded attention, her posture straight and her gaze sharp. As the clock chimed, signaling the start of the dinner, she descended the staircase, her hand lightly touching the banister, worn smooth by generations of Greystones. "Welcome, friends and patrons," Eleanor began, her voice echoing slightly in the vast room. "Your generosity supports not only the preservation of this historic mansion, but also our numerous charitable ventures." Her smile was gracious, but there was a heaviness in her eyes that suggested deeper currents of thought. As the applause faded, Eleanor retreated to the edges of the room, her duty as hostess weighing heavily upon her. It was then that she noticed Clara, who stood apart from the other guests, her notebook in hand, capturing the evening not with a camera, but with words. Their eyes met, and Eleanor felt an inexplicable pull, a sense that this young woman could understand the burdens of legacy and memory that the mansion carried. As the gala continued, Clara made her way through the throng of guests, her curiosity about the mansion growing with each whispered legend and each ornate door that hinted at forbidden corridors. When she finally approached Eleanor, it was with a respectful curiosity that bridged the gap between them. "Mrs. Greystone, your home is magnificent," Clara said, her voice tinged with genuine admiration. "The stories it must hold within its walls." Eleanor studied Clara for a moment, then nodded slightly. "Indeed, it does. Perhaps too many stories." Her gaze drifted towards the window, where the wind stirred the ancient trees that lined the estate. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Mr. Howard Redfield, a sharply dressed man with a predatory smile. "Eleanor, may I steal a moment?" he asked, his eyes flickering briefly towards Clara before returning to Eleanor. "It's about a matter I mentioned earlier." Eleanor excused herself, leaving Clara to ponder the interruption. She moved to a quieter part of the room, her mind racing with questions about the mansion and its enigmatic owner. Meanwhile, Eleanor and Howard stepped into the library, a room filled with books that smelled of leather and time. "I'll be direct," Howard began, his tone businesslike. "I wish to make an offer to purchase Greystone Mansion. I believe it would serve well as a luxury hotel, given its history and location." Eleanor stiffened, her hand tightening on the back of a leather chair. "This house is my family's legacy, Mr. Redfield. It is not merely a transaction to be made." Howard's smile thinned. "Consider the offer, Eleanor. Maintaining this place must be a burden, especially alone. My offer would relieve you of that burden while preserving the estate's dignity." As Eleanor contemplated the implications, She felt a chill that had little to do with the night air seeping through the aged walls. Selling might offer a way out, but at what cost to her family's history and to the secrets hidden within the mansion's silent halls? The day after the gala, Clara Bellamy returned to Greystone Mansion, her thoughts consumed by the intriguing blend of history and mystery that seemed to permeate every shadowed corner and whispered conversation from the night before. With a permission slip granted by Eleanor herself, who seemed both wary and intrigued by Clara's genuine interest, Clara was allowed to explore more freely. As she wandered through the echoing halls and up the creaking staircases, Clara's imagination was ignited by every artifact and portrait that adorned the mansion. Each room told a story of grandeur and decline, a silent testament to the family's once great influence, now fading into obscurity. Her writer's mind spun tales of the lives that had unfolded within these walls, and she scribbled notes feverishly, her pen barely keeping up with her thoughts. In the midst of her exploration, Clara stumbled upon a small, secluded library that seemed untouched by time. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light filtering through stained glass windows, illuminating shelves burdened with leather-bound books. It was here, in the quiet solitude of forgotten lore, that Clara discovered an old, leather-bound diary tucked away in a hidden drawer. The diary, inscribed with the initials A. GT, belonged to Amelia Greystone, Eleanor's great-aunt, who had lived in the mansion at the turn of the 20th century. Intrigued, Clara opened the diary to the first page and began to read, her eyes widening as the words revealed secrets of love, betrayal, and hidden truths that had been concealed within the family for generations. As Clara delved deeper into Amelia's diary, the entries grew darker and more mysterious. Amelia wrote of secret meetings, forbidden romances, and the burden of a terrible secret that could sink the Greystone name into the abyss. The more Clara read, the more she realized that the mansion held much more than just the remnants of a bygone era. It harbored deep, dark secrets that were meant to be kept from the light. Determined to learn more, Clara sought out Eleanor, who was tending to the overgrown garden, her hands deep in the earth as if trying to draw strength from it. Clara approached cautiously, the diary clutched in her hands. "Mrs. Greystone, I found something that you should see," she began, holding out the diary. Eleanor's reaction was immediate and visceral. Her hands stilled, and she looked up sharply, her eyes locking onto the diary with a mixture of fear and recognition. "Where did you find that?" she demanded, her voice a mixture of anger and dread. "In the library," Clara replied, her voice softening. "I think it's important. It might help explain some of the things that have been happening here." After a tense moment, Eleanor sighed and wiped her hands on her apron, gesturing for Clara to follow her back to the house. "Let's read it together then," she conceded, her expression resigned yet tinged with a curious trepidation. As they sat together in the dim light of the library, Eleanor listened intently as Clara read aloud from Amelia's diary. With each secret revealed, the air around them seemed to grow heavier, as if the house itself was listening and remembering. The session ended with the discovery of an entry describing a hidden room, a place where Amelia claimed to have concealed something of great value. Both intrigued and alarmed, Eleanor and Clara decided that they needed to find this room, believing it might hold the key to understanding the true legacy of the Greystone family. The search for the hidden room mentioned in Amelia's diary led Clara and Eleanor deeper into the lesser-known parts of the mansion. As they navigated through the narrow corridors and dusty, forgotten rooms, the mansion seemed to come alive with the echoes of the past. Clara, though usually skeptical of such things, couldn't shake the feeling that they were not entirely alone. Whispered voices seemed to float through the air, and more than once she spun around, certain someone was behind her, only to find empty space. Eleanor, noticing Clara's unease, paused in a dimly lit hallway adorned with faded wallpaper. "This house has many memories, and not all of them are pleasant," she said, her voice low. "Some say it's haunted by those who've lived unhappy lives within its walls." Clara nodded, her curiosity piqued despite her nerves. "Do you believe in ghosts, Mrs. Greystone?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Eleanor smiled wryly. "I believe we are surrounded by the remnants of the past, whether they be spirits or simply memories. Sometimes they make themselves known." She turned and continued down the hallway, her candle casting long shadows. As they reached a heavy wooden door at the end of the corridor, Clara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the drafty halls. Eleanor produced an old key from her pocket, its metal worn by time, and unlocked the door. It creaked ominously as it swung open, revealing a room shrouded in dust and draped in heavy, moth-eaten curtains. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old wood and mildew. As Clara's eyes adjusted, she noticed a painting on the far wall, a portrait of a woman whose stern gaze seemed to follow her movements. "That's Amelia," Eleanor said, noticing Clara's interest. "She was known for her strong will and sharp tongue." They began their search through the room, uncovering trinkets and documents that had not been touched in decades. It was here, in a locked drawer in an ancient bureau, that Clara found a small, intricately carved box containing letters tied with a faded ribbon, their edges yellowed with age. The discovery of the letters brought a new dimension to their quest. Clara and Eleanor spent the evening poring over the brittle pages, which revealed correspondence between Amelia and a mysterious figure known only as Jay. The letters hinted at a scandalous affair and a consequential secret that Amelia feared would bring disgrace upon the Greystone family. Energized by the find, Clara suggested they share their discoveries with the rest of the family, hoping to rally support for further exploration. Eleanor, however, hesitated. "Not everyone will be pleased with us dredging up the past," she warned. The following day, Eleanor's words proved prophetic. During a hastily called family meeting in the mansion's main drawing room, Clara and Eleanor presented the letters and diary entries, only to be met with mixed reactions. While some family members were intrigued, others were openly hostile. Philip Greystone, Eleanor's nephew, was particularly vehement. "You're threatening the dignity of our name for what? Ghost stories and old wives' tales," he argued, his face flushed with anger. Margaret, Eleanor's cousin, chimed in, her voice icy. "This mansion should be preserved, not picked apart like a common roadside attraction. We should be looking to the future, not the past." The meeting ended with the family divided, and Eleanor feeling the weight of her position more acutely than ever. Despite the resistance, she whispered to Clara as the room emptied, "We'll continue, you and I. We need to know the truth, no matter how difficult it may be." The discord within the Greystone family only intensified as the mysterious buyer, Mr. Howard Redfield, escalated his efforts to acquire the mansion. A few days after the contentious family meeting, Eleanor received a formal letter from Redfield's lawyers. The document reiterated his interest in purchasing the mansion and hinted at a swift conclusion to the transaction, suggesting that Eleanor consider the beneficial aspects of his offer, particularly in light of her family's divided stance. Redfield's persistent advances troubled Eleanor deeply, prompting her to question his motives. Despite the mounting pressure, she confided in Clara that selling to Redfield felt increasingly like capitulating to a hidden agenda. "There's something he's not telling us. Something about this mansion that we haven't yet uncovered," Eleanor mused as they walked through the mansion's sprawling gardens, her eyes reflecting a mix of determination and worry. Determined to understand Redfield's keen interest, Clara proposed a deeper investigation into his background. Utilizing her contacts and the resources at her disposal, Clara began to delve into Redfield's business dealings and past acquisitions. Her research revealed a pattern of purchasing historical properties under obscure circumstances, which often led to their commercial exploitation, stripping them of their historical essence. Armed with this knowledge, Eleanor felt a renewed resolve to protect her family's legacy. She reached out to Redfield, requesting a meeting to discuss his intentions face to face, hoping to glean more insight into his plans for Greystone Mansion. The meeting with Howard Redfield took place in the mansion's old study, where Eleanor confronted him with her findings. Redfield, unflustered by the revelations, admitted his intent to transform the mansion into a luxury hotel and conference center. "Imagine the potential, Eleanor," he argued, his voice smooth and convincing. "Greystone Mansion could become a premier destination, celebrated not only for its architecture but also for its service and elegance." Eleanor, however, remained unmoved by Redfield's vision. "This mansion is more than just a building, Mr. Redfield. It's a repository of my family's history and memories. Its value lies in its heritage, not in its commercial potential," she retorted, her stance firm and resolute. The conversation reached an impasse, with Redfield hinting that he was willing to go to great lengths to secure the property. As he left, his parting words lingered ominously in the air. "Think it over, Eleanor. Heritage is valuable, but it can also be a burden." After the meeting, Eleanor and Clara returned to their research with increased urgency. They decided to visit the local archives to uncover any legal documents or past transactions that might give them leverage against Redfield. It was there, amid dusty tomes and brittle papers, that they stumbled upon a forgotten lawsuit involving the Greystone family from nearly a century ago. The details of the lawsuit hinted at a scandal that had been buried by the family, involving none other than Amelia Greystone. Realizing the implications of this discovery, Eleanor and Clara understood that the secrets of the mansion were deeply intertwined with its fate. As they delved deeper into the archives, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, revealing a history of deceit, lost fortunes, and hidden treasures. Empowered by their new findings in the archives, Eleanor and Clara returned to the mansion with a map of the estate that dated back to Amelia's time. According to the documents, there was a sealed section of the mansion that had been closed off after a fire in the early 1900s, a part of the house that even Eleanor had never entered. With a sense of trepidation mixed with excitement, the two women located a concealed door behind a tapestry in the west wing of the mansion. The heavy door creaked ominously as they pushed it open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. Armed with flashlights, they descended, the air growing cooler and mustier with each step. At the bottom of the stairs, they discovered a large, dust-covered room filled with furniture draped in white sheets and walls lined with old paintings and mirrors. As they explored, Clara uncovered a large, ornate mirror that seemed oddly out of place. Upon closer inspection, she noticed that the frame was slightly ajar. With Eleanor's help, she carefully moved the mirror to reveal a hidden safe embedded in the wall. Their hearts raced as they realized this might be what Amelia had hidden, possibly the something of great value mentioned in her diary. Unfortunately, the safe was locked, and the combination was unknown. They decided to leave the safe untouched until they could figure out how to open it safely, fearing that any forced entry might damage its contents. As they prepared to leave the hidden room, a sudden storm erupted outside, its ferocity unexpected. The wind howled, and rain lashed against the mansion's old windows, making it unsafe to venture out. Stranded in the west wing, Clara and Eleanor decided to wait out the storm in the hidden room, surrounded by remnants of a past long concealed. As the storm raged, the mansion seemed to groan under its force, and the electricity flickered before going out entirely, plunging them into darkness. With only their flashlights to guide them, they settled in to wait. the beam of their lights occasionally catching on the hidden safe, its secrets just out of reach. To pass the time, Eleanor decided to share more of her family's history with Clara, telling her stories of her childhood in the mansion, the grand parties, and the quiet moments of solitude. As she spoke, Clara noticed a pattern in Eleanor's stories that matched dates from Amelia's diary, suggesting that the combination to the safe might be hidden within those memories. Just as they began to piece together the possible combination from the dates Eleanor mentioned, a loud crash echoed through the mansion, startling them. It seemed to come from the main part of the house. With the storm still unleashing its fury outside, they had no choice but to remain where they were, their nerves frayed by the noise and the uncertainty of what caused it. As they sat in the flickering light, waiting for the storm to pass and pondering the mysterious noise, the episode ends, leaving viewers on edge, wondering what awaits them in the dark, both in terms of the family secrets and the immediate dangers posed by the storm and the unseen disturbance. As the storm continued to rage outside, Eleanor and Clara remained trapped in the hidden room, surrounded by artifacts of a bygone era. The loud crash they had heard remained unexplained, adding an eerie tension to their wait. Using the time to further explore the room, they uncovered old photographs and documents that painted a vivid picture of the mansion's heyday, as well as its decline during turbulent times. Among the relics, Clara found a faded photograph of Amelia Greystone standing in the very room they were sheltering in, her expression somber as she held a small, unidentifiable object. Intrigued, Eleanor recounted tales she had heard of Amelia, a woman both revered and feared, known for her sharp intellect and secretive nature. The photograph led them to a small, hidden compartment in the room's wall paneling, where they discovered a series of letters between Amelia and an unknown correspondent, hinting at a deep love and a devastating betrayal. The letters provided clues that suggested the combination to the safe could be related to significant dates in Amelia's personal life. With the storm showing no signs of abating, the mansion's power outage persisted, casting long shadows across the walls. The howling wind seemed almost spectral, as if the mansion itself was lamenting its forgotten stories. Clara and Eleanor, driven by a need to understand the past and its impact on the present, used the clues from Amelia's letters to attempt to unlock the safe. After several tries, aligning dates with Amelia's major life events, they finally heard a click, the safe unlocked. Inside, they found not only jewelry and valuable documents, but also a last will and testament of Amelia Greystone, which included a shocking confession and amendment that could alter the current legal standing of the mansion. The revelation from the will showed that Amelia had bequeathed the mansion to her secret love, a person whose descendants could potentially lay claim to the property. This discovery explained the buyer's intense interest and hinted at a historical injustice that had long affected the mansion's lineage. The storm began to ebb, and as the first light of dawn broke, Eleanor and Clara prepared to confront the new day with the knowledge that the mansion's history was even more complex and intertwined with personal histories than they had imagined. With the storm finally clearing and the dawn casting new light through the dusty windows of the hidden room, Clara and Eleanor, armed with the explosive revelations from Amelia's will, decided it was time to confront Mr. Howard Redfield directly. The testament suggested a lineage and rightful ownership that could challenge Redfield's claim and intentions. Later that day, they arranged a meeting with Redfield in the mansion's formal drawing room, a space where the weight of history was palpable. Eleanor, with a newfound resolve, and Clara, armed with her research and notes, faced Redfield, who appeared unexpectedly composed. As the conversation unfolded, Clara tactically revealed their discovery of Amelia's will. Redfield's momentarily faltered composure confirmed their suspicions. He was indeed aware of the historical claim. With a resigned sigh, Redfield revealed his true identity. He was a descendant of the man Amelia had secretly loved, a gardener on the estate whose family had been wronged and dismissed without their rightful inheritance. His confession added layers to his motivations, portraying him not merely as a corporate buyer, but as someone seeking restitution for past injustices inflicted upon his family. Eleanor, taken aback by the depth of the legacy's entanglements, found herself sympathizing with Redfield. Despite her reservations about his methods, the revelation of Redfield's identity and rightful claim complicated Eleanor's decisions about the mansion's future. The discussion was interrupted by the unexpected arrival of Philip Greystone, Eleanor's nephew, who had been vehemently opposed to delving into the mansion's past. His sudden presence in the drawing room was charged with tension. Philip, overhearing the tail end of Redfield's revelations, reacted with anger and disbelief. Accusations flew as he confronted Eleanor about her secret meetings and the implications of the will. In the heat of the argument, Philip inadvertently revealed his own dealings with Redfield. He had been secretly negotiating with Redfield, hoping to broker a deal that would ensure him a share of the profits once the mansion was converted into a luxury hotel. Eleanor, betrayed by her own family, felt a deep sense of betrayal and disappointment. Clara, however, saw an opportunity to leverage Philip's desperation and Redfield's legitimate claim to forge a new path for the mansion. She proposed a compromise that would honor both the legal and emotional legacies of Greystone Mansion. The proposal would involve establishing a trust to preserve the mansion's history and using part of the estate as a public museum, while allowing Redfield to develop a small portion for commercial use, ensuring the financial sustainability of the entire estate. Eleanor, Clara, and Redfield agreed to present their compromise to the Greystone Mansion Trust Board, a committee formed from descendants and key stakeholders in the mansion's future. The board meeting was scheduled later that week, giving them a few days to prepare their proposal comprehensively. In the meantime, Eleanor and Clara worked closely with Redfield to develop a presentation that highlighted the benefits of their plan. They outlined the historical significance of the mansion, the financial advantages of limited commercial development, and the emotional and cultural importance of preserving the estate as a legacy for future generations. The day of the board meeting arrived, and the atmosphere was tense. The grand dining room of the mansion, where the meeting was held, was filled with apprehensive faces. Eleanor opened the meeting with a heartfelt speech about the importance of honoring the past while securing the future. Redfield then took the floor, sharing his personal connection to the mansion and his vision for a respectful development that could coexist with its historical preservation. Clara, with her knack for storytelling, detailed the discoveries they had made, including Amelia's will and the historical injustices that had led to the current situation. She presented the proposal as a resolution that could heal old wounds and bring prosperity to the community. As the presentation concluded, the board members deliberated among themselves. Some were moved by the historical revelations and the possibility of righting past wrongs. Others were skeptical about the commercial aspects of the proposal, concerned about the integrity of the mansion being compromised. Philip, still reeling from the betrayal and his own exposed dealings, argued vehemently against the proposal. He saw it as a dilution of the Greystone legacy, preferring a clean sale to external investors. His opposition, however, was met with counter-arguments from other board members, who saw the merit in creating a sustainable model that honored all aspects of the mansion's history. The debate was intense, with Eleanor defending the proposal not just as a compromise but as a moral obligation to acknowledge the mansion's full history. She emphasized that the mansion was more than just a structure. It was a symbol of both grandeur and grievance, deserving of a future that acknowledged both. After hours of discussion, the board voted. The decision was close, but ultimately, the majority supported the compromise proposal. The relief and satisfaction in the room were palpable, especially for Eleanor, Clara, and Redfield, who felt that their efforts to blend the past with the future had been validated. This resolution marked a turning point for Greystone Mansion, promising a new chapter that would honor its complex history while adapting to the modern world. The outcome was a testament to the power of understanding and reconciling historical narratives in contemporary settings. The board's decision, although favorable, did not settle all disputes. The following day, Mr. Howard Redfield requested a private meeting with Eleanor and Clara at the mansion to discuss the implications of the compromise. His demeanor was noticeably sterner, a stark contrast to his earlier cooperative stance. In the privacy of the mansion's library, Redfield expressed his concerns about the limited scope of commercial development allowed under the new plan. While I appreciate the board's decision, I must assert that the restrictions placed on development could jeopardize the financial viability of my investment, Redfield argued, his tone firm yet respectful. Eleanor, understanding his concerns, but committed to the preservation of the mansion's integrity, offered reassurances about the potential for high-value, low-impact activities that could generate revenue without compromising the historical aspects. Clara presented data and examples from similar heritage properties that had successfully integrated commercial and cultural functions. The discussion was tense, with each party presenting their views on how best to balance historical preservation with modern needs. The meeting ended with an agreement to revisit specific terms of the development, with Clara taking the lead on drafting a revised proposal that would address Redfield's concerns while maintaining the board's preservation priorities. As the negotiation process dragged on, Clara became increasingly involved, acting as a mediator between Eleanor's desire for preservation and Redfield's push for profitability. Her role as a writer and historian gave her a unique perspective on the importance of storytelling in preserving cultural heritage. Recognizing the need to sway public opinion and garner broader support, Clara organized a community forum to discuss the future of Greystone Mansion. She invited historians, local business owners, and community leaders to speak about the mansion's importance to the town's identity and economy. During the forum, Clara made a passionate plea for a vision of the mansion that included both preservation and innovation. Let this mansion be a beacon of our community's respect for its history and its ambition for the future, Clara urged, her words resonating with the audience. The forum was a success, with many attendees expressing their support for the compromise plan. The community's backing provided a strong mandate that helped solidify the board's decision, making it harder for Redfield to push for more aggressive development. Eleanor, witnessing Clara's growing leadership and commitment, felt a profound sense of gratitude and respect. Clara's efforts not only helped bridge differing viewpoints, but also ensured that the mansion's legacy would be honored in a way that was inclusive and forward-thinking. Following Clara's successful community forum, the atmosphere among the Greystone Mansion Trust Board was charged with a renewed sense of purpose and urgency. The support from the community had been overwhelming, and it bolstered the board's confidence in the compromise plan Clara and Eleanor had championed. The final vote to ratify the revised proposal was set during an extraordinary meeting held in the mansion's grand ballroom. Board members gathered around the long oak table, each aware of the historical significance of their decision. Redfield was present too, his expression unreadable but his posture slightly more relaxed, suggesting a cautious acceptance of the inevitable. Eleanor opened the meeting with a brief speech about the importance of legacy and the duty they all shared to honor the past while securing a future for the mansion that respected its history and ensured its sustainability. Clara then presented the revised proposal, which included detailed plans for the development areas, along with stringent guidelines to ensure that any commercial activities would be in keeping with the mansion's historical character. As the discussion unfolded, it was clear that the tide had turned. The board members, once divided, now spoke passionately about their responsibility to the mansion and the community. When the vote was finally called, it was unanimous. Approval for the compromise plan that would see Greystone Mansion preserved as a historical site and cultural hub, with limited commercial development to ensure its financial viability. The board's unanimous decision marked a new chapter for Greystone Mansion. Celebrations were subdued but heartfelt, with board members and community leaders acknowledging the hard work and compromise that had led to this outcome. Eleanor and Clara shared a quiet moment of relief and satisfaction, proud of what they had achieved together. However, the joy was short-lived. Just as the meeting concluded, Clara received an urgent message from one of her contacts in the town archives. Rushing to meet her, Clara was shown a newly discovered document that had been hidden away in a mislabeled file. The document was a letter written by Amelia Greystone, addressed to her future descendants. It hinted at a secret she had kept even from her own diary, a secret related to a hidden treasure she had concealed somewhere within the mansion, meant as a final safeguard for the estate's future. Clara, her heart racing with the implications of this new discovery, knew that this secret could change everything yet again. It might offer the mansion not just historical significance, but real material security that could make external investments unnecessary. She rushed back to inform Eleanor, the letter clutched tightly in her hand. As Clara drove back to the mansion, the sun setting behind her, the episode ended on her determined face, a symbol of the ongoing journey to uncover the full truth of Greystone Mansion. The viewers were left wondering what Amelia's secret treasure could be, how it would impact the mansion's future, and what new challenges and mysteries it might unveil. The revelation of Amelia's letter about a hidden treasure sparked a flurry of activity at Greystone Mansion. Clara and Eleanor, energized by the possibility of discovering something that could further secure the mansion's future, began planning an exhaustive search of the estate. They enlisted the help of local historians and experts in antique documents to decipher any clues Amelia might have left about the treasure's location. As they prepared for the search, Clara took the lead in organizing the efforts, demonstrating her growing attachment and responsibility toward the mansion. She arranged for detailed scans of the mansion's structure to identify any anomalies that could indicate hidden compartments or rooms not accounted for in the current blueprints. Eleanor, while supportive, was also reflective, considering the implications of finding such a treasure. She worried about the potential disruptions and the renewed interest it might spark from parties like Redfield, who might see it as an opportunity to revisit the terms of the development agreement. The tension culminated when Redfield, catching wind of the potential treasure through rumors swirling around the town, confronted Clara and Eleanor. He demanded inclusion in the search, asserting that any discovery might legally impact the agreed terms of the development deal, especially if it significantly increased the mansion's value. Clara, anticipating this move, had already consulted with legal advisors who assured her that the discovery of such a treasure, unless specifically mentioned in previous agreements, would not affect the terms of the current deal. Armed with this knowledge, she confidently rebuffed Redfield's demands, asserting that the treasure, if found, would belong to the mansion and its trust, intended for the preservation of the estate as Amelia had wished. Redfield, frustrated but outmaneuvered, warned that he would be watching the proceedings closely, hinting that he might not be ready to give up his claims so easily. Clara and Eleanor, undeterred, proceeded with their plans, aware that the final search for Amelia's treasure could either be a saving grace or a new battleground. The search for Amelia's hidden treasure commenced under a cloud of excitement and anxiety. With the help of experts, Clara and Eleanor focused on areas of the mansion that were either unexplored or had undergone renovations since Amelia's time. Using ground-penetrating radar and other non-invasive technologies, they identified anomalies behind the mansion's old library, a space known for its intricate woodwork and historical artifacts. As the team carefully removed a section of the wooden paneling, they uncovered a small, hidden alcove. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth to protect it from time and the elements, was a small iron chest. The air was thick with anticipation as Eleanor inserted a key, found with Amelia's letter, into the lock. The chest opened with a creak, revealing its contents: a collection of jewelry, old coins, and a set of documents that detailed financial investments unknown to the current Greystone family. The documents revealed that Amelia had secretly invested in several lucrative ventures overseas, the returns from which were designated for the upkeep and preservation of the mansion. This newfound wealth could potentially render the development deal with Redfield unnecessary, securing the mansion's future as a historical site indefinitely. Eleanor and Clara, overwhelmed by the significance of their find, decided to announce it to the board and the community, ensuring transparency and rallying further support for the mansion's preservation. With the discovery of Amelia's treasure, the mood around Greystone Mansion shifted from uncertainty to optimism. The board quickly moved to secure the assets and establish a fund dedicated to the restoration and maintenance of the mansion. Plans were made to restore the mansion to its former glory, respecting its historical significance while updating it for safety and accessibility. Clara took charge of the restoration project, her vision for the mansion influenced by her deep dive into its history. She worked with architects and preservationists to ensure that all renovations respected the original designs and materials as much as possible. Community involvement grew as the mansion's fortunes turned. Local schools, historians, and artists contributed to the revitalization effort, eager to see the mansion become a beacon of cultural heritage. Clara also initiated an outreach program that included educational workshops, historical tours, and cultural events that celebrated both the mansion and the region's history. As the mansion gradually transformed, so did the relationships among those connected to it. Clara and Eleanor found themselves at the heart of a renewed community spirit, their efforts lauded as a model of how heritage and progress could coexist. The restoration of Greystone Mansion culminated in a grand opening day, celebrated with a festival-like atmosphere that drew crowds from across the region. The mansion, now fully restored to its original splendor, opened its doors to the public, offering a glimpse into the rich history and vibrant future it promised. Clara, overseeing the event, felt a mix of pride and relief as she watched visitors marvel at the meticulously restored rooms and the exhibits that detailed the mansion's history, including the recent discovery of Amelia's treasure. Interactive displays, curated by Clara and a team of historians, told the stories of the mansion's various inhabitants over the decades, bringing the past alive for a new generation. Eleanor, though advanced in years, participated actively, sharing personal anecdotes with visitors and media alike. Her stories added a personal touch to the historical narrative, bridging the gap between past and present. The community's response was overwhelmingly positive, with many expressing their appreciation for the effort to preserve such a significant landmark. The success of the opening day marked a new chapter for Greystone Mansion. It quickly became a cultural hub, hosting various events, from historical conferences to community arts performances, all of which reinforced its role as a center for heritage and education. Eleanor, seeing the fulfillment of her ambitions for the mansion, decided it was time to officially pass the baton to Clara. In a small, private ceremony attended by the board and key community members, Eleanor named Clara as the new director of the Greystone Mansion Trust. Her endorsement was heartfelt, recognizing Clara's dedication, vision, and the profound impact she had made on the mansion's legacy. Clara accepted the role with humility and a deep sense of responsibility. She vowed to continue the work Eleanor had started, ensuring that the mansion remained a testament to the community's resilience and commitment to preserving its cultural heritage. As the story wrapped up, the mansion stood not only as a restored historical site, but also as a symbol of redemption and renewal. Its rooms, once silent witnesses to centuries of history, now buzzed with the energy of visitors and the vibrant activities it hosted. Clara, stepping into her new role with confidence, looked forward to guiding the mansion into its next century, safeguarded by the community and enriched by its storied past. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing to our channel and supporting us through the thanks button.